Hi, I'm Nancy O'Hara, and with me today is my colleague Mary Watson. We're both with the IDA Data Center. We're going to talk to you today for just a couple of minutes about the stakeholder requirements for the SPP APR for federal fiscal years 2020 through 2025. There are new requirements in the SPP package for stakeholder engagement, and it really has changed the way states are approaching stakeholder engagement. And so we really want to think about the new stakeholder engagement requirements as a broad stakeholder engagement that is ongoing, that includes a large variety of stakeholders, and that looks at much more than just targets as we're used to looking at, but we're also looking at analyzing data, developing improvement activities, and evaluating progress. Today we're going to focus on who are the stakeholders and how do we engage them. So when you think about stakeholders and who you're going to bring to the table and who you're going to invite and include in your stakeholder group, you want to really think about families that can represent the community, that have interest and influence around the state, but also are very representative of the state population. And when we think about the state population, we want to think about true representativeness, whether it's race and ethnicity, gender, disability of the child those families may be representing, age of the child those families may be representing, something about socioeconomic status, geographic locations around the state, maybe where in the state, but also thinking urban, suburban, rural, and any other factors that may be relevant to your state when you think about having a good comprehensive group of stakeholders. Sometimes it's by state board, districts or regions, or congressional regions is another way to think about representativeness across your state, and how are you going to make sure that you've covered that. And then as you're starting to plan for stakeholders, you really have to think about how you're going to actively engage those stakeholders so that they do provide feedback and input on setting targets, analyzing data, developing improvement strategies, and evaluating progress. And it's an annual process. It's going to happen every year, and it's going to be an ongoing process. You also need, as you get started, what's your plan for documenting, tracking, and analyzing all this stakeholder engagement, keeping that running list of what's happened, what is the feedback, what were the decisions you as a state are making, and how do you let your stakeholders know about those decisions. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague Mary to talk to us a little more.
Hello, I'm Mary Watson, as Nancy said. And I'm going to talk a little bit about getting stakeholders to the table, and do you have the right people at the table. And one thing you'll want to think about is over time your stakeholder group may change, or you may have a larger group and then maybe some smaller groups. But as the work progresses over the year, you may, or over the span of the SPP APR, there may be a need for specific content knowledge, or you may be focusing on a topic where you'll use a subset of the stakeholders or even another smaller group. As you're planning for your stakeholders, take into account the existing groups that are already supporting your work, such as your State Personnel Development Grant, your State Advisory Panel, LEA administrators, other advisory groups, and you may even think about groups through the institutions of higher education or other state agencies. So be flexible in your thinking and look who's already organized, but then also look at other groups. It's important that you include parents who are part of the State Advisory Panel, also the Parent Center staff, local and statewide advocacy and advisory committees, and then individual parents who may not otherwise be represented in some of these groups. I know many of the disability organizations, disability specific, have parent advisory groups that would be important informative members of your process. Also consider individuals who can inform the SPP APR, such as students or other business and community members. Think about other partners in the state who could help recruit a broad array of stakeholders. So as you bring together your stakeholders, you may want to say, who do we not have at the table, and continue thinking of how you can involve people in this process. If you want to know more about stakeholder involvement, you can go to the ideadata.org website and just search for stakeholder, and there are various resources to help you with stakeholder input and stakeholder engagement in the SPP APR process.